This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Guiu, and I'm the curator at the San Francisco Botanical Garden. I am incredibly excited to have all of you here today because we have a very special guest speaker as part of our Magnolia webinar series. A bit of bookkeeping before we get started. So this meeting is being recorded, but your cameras and your sound has been turned off. Throughout the presentation, you can add any questions you want into the Q&A function at the bottom. And at the end of the presentation, we'll accumulate them and group them so that we can ask our guest speaker any and all of the questions that we have. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Marcela Serna, who is the professor of botany at the Technologico de Antioquia in Medellin, Colombia. She's going to share with us today about her work with magnolias in Colombia and the region, and I will pass it off to her to share with us about her amazing work.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for inviting me. I hope you enjoy this presentation. So I'm going to share now this. Is it working? I hope you can see it, right? Okay. Well, today I would like to share with you information about the systematics, ecology, and conservation of Colombian magnolias. I hope you enjoy my slides today. Well, I started to work with magnolias around 20 years ago with this poster. We started to look for them in the whole province I live. I live in Medellin, the capital of Antioquia province. So we designed this poster to look for them. And this is what I want to show you today. Can you see? I am going to try to move this. I think you must know that Colombia is the second most biodiverse country around the world. In many issues, we have the first place or the second one. We have several ecosystems from the sea level up to maybe 3,000 or 4,000 meters above the sea level. And we do have several conditions of rain. So we have very dry forests, like in La Guajira, but also very humid forests, like the Chocó region, Chocó Darien region, which has maybe more than 11,000 millimeters every year of water. So every single day is raining and raining. And this is very unique. And that is why in Colombia we have several ecosystems. And also because of our cordilleras, the Andes, split into three ranges. So I think we are going to see that later. So we have the first place in birds and orchids, the second one in plants, frogs, butterflies, waterfish, palms, reptiles, and also the sixth one in mammals. So we have several individuals, organisms in a little part of the Latin American or the neotropics, being more precise. Well, talking about magnolias, we are the country with most species in South America, Peru and Ecuador as well, but Colombia has now 39 species described so far. We know that we do have new species, but we don't have enough material to describe them because the work with these plants is quite difficult. The trees reach up to 35, 40 meters of tall, so they are so difficult to get flowers or fruits in order to get to have a good description to publish the species. So we do know that we need to go to the field for more material to have a good description. And well, why we started to work on magnolias? Well, I think that before in the 90s, at the end of the 90s, in the world, the global strategy of plant conservation was erected. So I think that the national plant conservation strategy was a reflect of this influence. So we published this strategy and we wanted to prove if this strategy would work or not. So we have chosen two groups, Magnoliaceae as a family and Cattleya as a genus, at a genus level in orchids to prove if this strategy would work. So why we have chosen Magnoliaceae? Well, because they had still have a wide distribution. The taxonomy was well known by that moment in 2001. Most species are endangered, and they are important because of the wood is of a great quality. And we wanted to prove if cooperation among institutions would work around the world. Magnoliaceae had a great contribution thanks to Dr. Gustavo Lozano, who was the botanist dedicated to work on this group. So he published maybe 24, 25 new species in Colombia and in the neotropics. And these, what we are seeing here, are the main publications, the most important books he published, one in 1983 and in 1994. Then we started in Medellin Botanical Garden working on this group. So in 2005, we could organize information about the Magnoliaceae in Antioquia province, and we had this booklet. And then we offered this information for the Red Book of plants in Colombia, and the volume 5 is about Magnoliaceae. And we have here 33 species, all of them in this book endangered. So I'm going to show you some examples a little bit later after seeing some information about systematics. I do think that most of you must love magnolias and have this information, but I think that maybe it's important as well. So Magnoliaceae has two well-recognized subfamilies, Viriodendroideae with just two species, Viriodendron tulipifera and Viriodendron chinensis, and another subfamily which is Magnolioideae, much more complex and huge, and includes species from China and America as well. Recently, this article in 2020 proposed Magnolia as the only genus. Well, before this work, for instance, Biglar and Notboom proposed Magnolia as a unique genus, but with several sections and subsections. So I am going to show you only the sections in South America. And we are talking basically about three groups: Talauma, Splendentes, previously known as Dugandiodenron in Colombia, and Chocotolauma. Chocotolauma is a new group. It was proposed in 2017. But we are going to see that maybe Chocotalauma is very similar to Talam. So in this study about genetics, the phylogenetic analysis based on molecular information, they included several specimens, but not about a Chocotalauma. It was not included in this research. So the morphology of these three groups is a little bit simple. I mean, and the difference are just few, and it are just related to the position of the stipules. In Talauma, the stipules are adnate to the petiole, so we are going to see kind of a scar on the petiole. Maybe in Chocotalauma as well, but not as long as this case. In Talauma could be 50% on the petiole or 100% on the petiole, but here it's a little bit shorter, or maybe not. In Splendentes, the stipules are free, so they don't leave any scar on the petiole. This is one of the big differences. Another one is the connective of the stamens. In Splendentes, like in the Q1 species, the stamens have this connective about maybe, it could be long, as long as the stamen, or short, but something like that. On the contrary, in Talauma, you won't see any connective, and Chocotalauma doesn't have any connective. And the other difference is the way of the dehiscence of the fruit. In Talauma, the external wall of the carpels is fused, like here, while in Splendentes, the carpels just fall down by one, just in little parts. So the external wall is not fused, it's free. Here, the dehiscence is like Talauma. So the external wall of the carpels is fused. We can see here how the stipules leave kind of a ring in the stem. So this is the stipule protecting the new leaf. So when they fall in Talauma, as you see here, they are adnate to the apex, right? So when the leaf splits, you could see the scar on the petiole like this. So this is the scar that is caused by because of this position. On the contrary, you can see here there is not a scar. We do have the stipule like here, but it just falls down without any scar. So the stipules are free from the petiole, right? So we can see the difference here as well. This is the connective. so the stamens don't fall easily because they remain attached to the flower because of the connective. But here they fall easily because they don't have any connective. And this is the external wall fused on the fruit, while here the carpels are dehiscing in irregular masses or just carpel by carpel. This is the subsection Chocotalauma proposed by Dr. Vasquez and other researchers from Ecuador and Peru. You can see the big flowers, very typical of Talauma as well. But the difference is that they don't see any scar here, maybe in a little part of the petiole, the base, but not on the petiole as we have seen here. So that is why they think that it could be another different group. Well, this is the distribution of Colombian Magnolias. As you can see here, this little gray that you see here corresponds to the mountain ranges of the Andes Cordillera. So the main distribution of Colombian Magnolias is in the cloud forest of the mountains. Some species are also in the geographic region of Chocó Darien, and few of them in the Amazon region. So they are mainly on these forests, which are very demanded by cities and population because of the weather, nice climatic conditions. So this is one of the main factors of threat of these species. Well, I think that you also know this information. As you must know, Magnoliaceae has bisexual flowers, female and male flowers, organs in the same flower, but they do have, they have dichogamy, which means that the female stage appears before the male stage, trying to not overlap. So this is known as protogynous flowers. So functionally, first, the female stage is functional in one day, and the second day it is not working anymore. The female organs, in this case the carpels and the stigmas, but the second day, as you see here, they are kind of brown. They are not sticky anymore, and the stems start to dehisce the pollen. So here in Colombia, we have performed a study recently, and we realized that this species is Magnolia Ardinensis, and it opens during the day around 7 a.m. 7 a.m. It starts to open, and it open first as a female. That is why you see immature stamens here. So Magnolia germanensis is from Dugandodendron group, today known as Splendentes. And this one is a typical flower of Talauma group, which opens at night around 6 p.m. And you see the sticky stigmas and the immature stamens, because this is the first opening of the flower. They open twice during 2 consecutive days. And then look at this beautiful flower. It was taken using a track camera, trying to get the precise moment when the insects start to enter to the flower, right? So these are little flies that start to arrive to the flower around 4 p.m., 5 p.m. And this is the second day in the morning. So we discovered that this beetle is the effective pollinator of this species, which is a Magnolia Ardinensis. Well, it's not curious, it's kind of a typical trait to have huge stamens with a lot of pollen grains in order to feed the beetles and also to be or to get pollinated. So they are these traits like opening at night, having floral scents, heat as well, suggest specialized pollination, specifically with beetles. Well, here, this is kind of sequence in neotropical magnolias. We can distinguish between sepals and petals. This is the bracts. Several species have 2-3 bracts, and those that remain reflected are the sepals, and these are the petals. For sure, this is a stage, a pre-staminate stage, because it is closed, but the stigmas are losing their receptivity, and they are going to open again to be pollinated by this beetle. And we also observed that they form this fruit, but they would take 6 months. And in this species in particular, these are flowers and pictures of Magnolia Ardinensis, which is critically endangered. And it seems that there is a huge abortion of flowers and small fruits. And you can see the birds as the main dispersers of the seeds. This is the latest article we could published about this work, and we found a lot of insects associated with these species, like these little flies, and those little dots are eggs of these flies, which is nice. It's a nice relationship. It is interesting because the flower is not affected, but for sure the fly is beneficial, the beneficial part, but also some problems that we are going to see in this presentation as well. Well, this is a map about a study that show how the magnolias are in the field. They are so rare. They are quite difficult to find because they are not common. They are rare, and they have small populations, or maybe just isolated trees in the forest. This is the, I don't know, you can see the map. This is the Colombian map. This is Antioquia province, and the black one is that region, which is a kind of lowland forest. And I had a project there looking just for these species, two species, Magnolia zambuensis, which is shared with Panama, and Magnolia Cathedral, which is native to this region. There is a park called Los Catillos. That is why this species is called Magnolia Cathedral. And we were looking for trees during 2 years, and we couldn't find more trees rather than 13 adult trees for Magnolia Cathedral and 11 for Magnolia zambuensis. So the density is very low, and they do have a very restricted distribution. Maybe not Magnolia zambuensis because it is found also in Panama, but Magnolia Cathedral is also found near Los Catillos, which is just in that dot of the map. This is the typical forest in which Magnolia lives. So this is the natural park of Los Guácharos at the south of the country. And this is in Antioquia province, at the south of the province. So they do need well-conserved forest. But as you must know, deforestation is increasing. So we find trees that look happy in grazing areas, but they do not guarantee populations because seedlings cannot establish. They do need shade, shadow, but they do not have the conditions needed to grow there, to establish. So talking about conservation, we have, as I told you, 39 species in Colombia. Only one species is less concerned, and one is with no threat, but most of them are endangered or critically endangered. So we have a lot of work to do, and we see this is kind of a small presentation about the whole situation. So the 36% of the species are critically endangered, and they do have very extremely small populations or isolated trees with less than 50 individuals. 11 species are in cloud forest and 3 species are in lowland forest. When I tell you mountain forest or cloud forest, I am talking about species that are distributed around 1,000 up to maybe more than 2,000 meters above the sea level. And when we are talking about the lowland forest, it is about 0 to 500 meters above the sea level. Humid, wet forests. So most species are in cloud forests. Talking about endangered species, we have 51%. They maybe have a wider distribution than critically endangered species, or maybe they are located in protected areas like national parks. 16 of them are located in cloud forests, while 4 species are located in lowland forests. And we do have 3% of the species considered like vulnerable, and we are talking about Magnolia zambuensis. Well, this is my proposal. I do think that this species, Magnolia zambuensis, should be vulnerable, but I do think that in the red list by UICN is not vulnerable, but less concerned. I don't remember well. but I am going to propose that it should be vulnerable. Well, this is one of the reasons why the species are endangered. They are huge trees, very straight, very attractive to be cut, to build houses and furniture and everything. So people look for them to cut them because of the quality, look at the beauty of the wood. They look gorgeous. This is the explanation of the local names. Several species are called alma negra, kind of black soul, because the inner wood is kind of black, maybe deep purple or deep green. And they do love the contrast between this white and this dark, and use the wood for roofs or floors or doors, everything to make houses. So that is why they are so endangered. This is a study in a town in Antioquia province, and you see how this is the distribution of the diameters, and you see how the young trees, I mean the most important trees in the population for reproduction are just decreasing because they are harvested, right? Well, there are other causes like deforestation, because of the timber illegal traffic. It is huge. It is quite important. This is just a number that I could get 2 years ago. I mean, we are talking about a lot of money that these people look for them for just very high quality wood in the field, in the forest, and they sell them, but with no permission because it is forbidden. But they do that even though it is forbidden. Another cause of this high degree of threat or endangerment is caused by livestock, grazing areas, mining, coca, crops, etc. This is the region that I was talking at the beginning, the Urabá region, in which is found Magnolia Cathedral. And look at this, those are banana plantations. The oil palm is just increasing crops in this region. So forests are decreasing and decreasing, and this is affecting seriously the populations of magnolia trees. Climate change is also a concern that we don't know how could affect the species. This is the typical cloud forest in Colombia. Most of the day we have this foggy weather. What happens if the weather change, the climate change? We don't know. We have no idea. This is also an important factor. So those were first forests and now are farms for people who wants to go out from the city, or maybe just grazing lands or crops. So we don't know how the microbiota is affected, or the pollinators. We know that those beetles are primitive, are not good for flying long distances. So this is a huge problem as well, because as we know, it seems that pollination is very specific. This is an enormous problem we have right now. This is kind of a larvae of a Stylophagus, something we don't know what the species is. Still, we don't have the information. We couldn't identify the insect yet, and look at the tree, and we are talking about Magnolia Pulitzovilla, which is a species just with less than 50 trees in Colombia, and in just one region, which is called Ventanas, and look at the trees with no branches, no leaves, no nothing, because of this insect. This is another big problem of Magnolia Ardinensis, which is critically endangered as well as Magnolia Pulitzovilla. And look at this, the flower. It seems that this species, Magnolia Ardinensis, lose a lot of flowers. I mean, there is a lot of abortion of flowers. And the few flowers that reach a nice size and condition, we expect to see the pollinators, but we find just flowers with no stigmas because of these larvae. So we do have several problems, and we don't know how to manage them, or we need resources, or it is difficult because there are many species and few people working on that. So it is quite difficult. This is another condition. Most of the critically endangered species have very few seeds because of the fruits, because they have small fruits versus huge fruits. So these species are endangered, but not critically endangered. So we do have a lot of things to do. This is a problem as well that I realized we had here in Colombia, thanks to Sergio Gallardo. Sergio is a guy that I met in working on magnolias in Mexico, and he discovered that this little insect was transmitting, infecting the seeds with a fungi. So I realized that this is happening as well in Magnolia species, particularly in splendentes species, like this one, Magnolia Cathedral. So we are also interested on this topic. We have seen the threats and the efforts to conserve the species as well. So this is the national map of governmental areas to protect biodiversity in Colombia. But look at that. Even though we do have several parks, they are very small in areas. So most of Colombian magnolias are not in natural parks, so they are not protected. The other thing that we can see in this map is the forest cover. So look at the map. I don't know if you remember, this is the Eastern Cordillera, the Western and the Central Cordillera, in which the magnolia are more common. We have 29 species inhabiting this region, but look at the cover. So the Andes are a critically endangered ecosystem as well, right? Well, and other problems are that we do need money and people to work on this. It's time demanding. They are difficult to find because they are green, like the other trees that we have, right? They are sometimes tricky and difficult to identify, to distinguish from other species that are similar. This is Magnolia Jarmolensis and this one Magnolia Ardinensis. Sometimes they could live together, like this case. Another problem is that in Colombia we do have several species in danger. This is the Red Book program of Colombian plants. Look at the, well, we have here 7 books about orchids, about, I don't have here all of them, just some of them. So we have kind of thousands of endangered species. So it is difficult to be concentrated on one group or get resources just for one group. And that is why it is difficult to work on conservation here in Colombia. This is I am going to talk about some species. I want to show you some few species. This is Antioquia province at the north of Colombia. This is a part of the Darien Chocó region. I was talking about this before. And we have Antioquia province has the greatest number of species in Colombia, 15, and those are critically endangered. This is Magnolia spinali. It's called spinali because of thanks to a Professor Sigifredo Espinal, who found a tree for the first time. So Dr. Gustavo Lozano wanted to give his name to this species. This species inhabits near Medellin. So the main threat is urban areas growing and growing. So the trees are losing their home, the territory, the forest, and this is the main threat. Magnolia Ardinensis, as I told you, is also critically endangered. Is just known from a province called, pardon me, from a town called Jardín. That is why we gave the name Ardinensis for this species. The town is called Jardín. And we know just few species when we, few trees, when we just found the tree for the first time, they were cutting, the sawyers were cutting the wood because it is of high quality, so they are very scarce these days, because remember that we started to work on that in 2001. So every single day we are losing trees or a forest in which this species can be found. This is Magnolia Cathedral, is from Talauma group. All of these species are from Talauma group. This is from the lowland forest. They are attacked by insects, very rare and just known from that place. This is Magnolia Pulitzovilla, which is attacked by this insect that it is eating the wood. But fortunately, there is a guy very interesting. I am going to show you what he is doing these days. Oh, well, this is the only species with this fruit pendulus, which is beautiful. The other province with most species after Antioquia province is Santander, with 7 species. This one, we At first, we thought it was Magnolia chimantensis, which is also from Venezuela, but no, this is a new species, is Magnolia Betuliensis, because it's from Betulia town, and those are the pictures of the little fruit. This one is Magnolia Betuliensis, which is critically endangered, very rare as well, and look at the fruits with very few seeds. This is Magnolia resupinatifolia, which is endangered, but look at the fruit, it's bigger, and we could get more seeds. So it is endangered, but it is not as terrible as the other species. And this is interesting because you see how the receptacle of the fruit, we use them in our kitchens. I do have mine to use in my kitchen. This is the thing I wanted to show you about this guy who is protecting this fruit. He designed this basket to protect the seeds from animals, and is getting results. This is a NGO protecting these trees. Look at the forest. This is a typical cloud forest, well concerned, but look at what people do. They establish livestock, so they cut the trees, even though they don't use the wood. So this is the place in which Magnolia Pulitzovilla lives these days. Fortunately, they got a project with Franklinia, and we are working on conservation, propagation of Magnolia Pulitzovilla and other two magnolia species who live in this territory. This is another Franklinia project developed by Medellin Botanic Garden in Antioquia province with Magnolia Ardinensis and Magnolia Ardinensis. This project is finishing, I think, this June, but we are trying to get seeds, to look for more trees, to mark maybe plots to see if they reproduce or not, to improve public awareness, to establish nurseries. But we are finished. But we think that we are doing nice things. For instance, Magnolia guatapensis is called guatapensis because it was found in Guatapé town. So we were talking with the mayor of that town, and it was chosen as emblematic tree by law. The same thing happened in Jardín. Magnolia Ardinensis is one of the emblematic species that they had chosen to protect. So we hope that those efforts keep and help to conserve this kind of trees. Look at the molinillo that we use in our houses to stir hot chocolate. So I do have mine, as I told you, that's mine. It's very popular. This is a conservation efforts ex-situ. The leader, I would say, is Medellin Botanic Garden with several species there. This one is Magnolia silviol, which is a beautiful tree, as you see here. And repopulation efforts, reintroduction efforts, mainly of these species with huge fruits, and then a lot of seeds, which makes easier propagation and this kind of efforts. This is the fruit of the Magnolia silvioli growing in Medellin Botanical Garden, and this is a beautiful tree in downtown here in Medellin of Magnolia silvioli. I think this is a good strategy to conserve them here in Medellin, at least to have some individuals. But we do have that there are a lot of things that we need to do. Here is, you can find this in this article. So here is the number of species of these countries, but also the efforts and the studies they have about ecology and molecular studies. So we need to work harder in order to get more results. But we are doing our efforts, like this one. This one is Ana Maria Rueda, and she is working with Ghent University, with Emily Bergen and Marie-Stephanie Samain, and they are performing the genetic and ecological patterns of 3 species of Magnolia using is our markers. I also am working with a student trying to reintroduce Magnolia Ardinensis and other 2 species in highly disturbed areas, but helping the trees with mycorrhiza, at first with commercial mycorrhiza, but we do want to propagate and get a native mycorrhiza in order to guarantee a good growth of these saplings in the field. This is Juan Pablo. Juan Pablo wants to work on the specificity between flowers and pollinators. It is a very beautiful story to tell in Colombian species because these little beetles are were related first with litter and now are related with flowers. And the first report by the expert was in flowers of Asteraceae here in high ecosystems that we call paramos, in Speletia genus in Asteraceae, but now we found them in Magnoliaceae. But it is kind of tricky. I could find a lot of individuals of these little beetles, but Juan Pablo in his sampling couldn't find them. So we need to know what happened, maybe weather, maybe climate variables, or what happened there, why they are not, or they appear sometimes, or sometimes you can find them. And he wants to work on that. And recently we got a grant from the Magnolia Society International to look for magnolias from the Amazon region, because if we have several magnolia species in Peru and Ecuador, they must be here as well, but efforts need to be done to look for them because they are quite difficult to find. So I got this fellow and went to the indigenous communities in Leticia and Puerto Nariño, the municipalities of the Amazon region in Colombia, and I designed this poster, and it seems we are going to get results. I am talking here with this abuelo of this Titan, this maloca, showing him the flower of the leaf of a magnolia and see if he knows the trees. The problem in this region is that we don't have the local names of the species, and this is very tricky because, as I told you before, some species are called alma negra because of the wood, black soul, but the same species in Antioquia province is called with 3 or 4 different names. So here, in which you find several native communities with different languages, it is kind of almost impossible to tell them, because the easier way is the common name, but we don't have it. So we need to look for them with this poster and talking with people and meetings. Well, now we are trying to enhance the steering committee in the global consortium of Magnolia, and also the consortium of Magnolia here in South America. So we do have we have had several meetings. This one was the first one in August last year, thanks to Atlanta Botanical Garden and Botanic Gardens. Well, there are several people everywhere loving magnolias and trying to help them to conserve them and to study them. And many institutions like this one who invited me today to talk about magnolias. So thank you.
Marcela, thank you so much. That was absolutely fantastic and such great images and hearing about all the high diversity, but also the concerning threats that are happening along with all the work that you and your colleagues are doing. So big round of applause from me and from everyone, I'm sure, if we could hear them. I think we have time for a few questions if you're willing. And we have a few really pretty engaged ones. And so I'll ask a few and then we can wrap up today. So one of them is in Medellin's botanical garden, which indigenous species of magnolia do you not have? And what is the biggest challenge to adding those species to your collection? So I assume there's several, but maybe the second part of that question will be easier to answer.
Well, we do have, I think that it is a condition that we have in all botanic gardens here in Colombia. Very different from botanic gardens everywhere, like in US, that you find how can I say that, habitats that you create, the habitats, the humidity and temperature and everything. We don't have that. So in Medellin, we have the species that are adapted to the temperature and altitude to Medellin. So we don't have the cloud forest created in Medellin to establish Magnolia Ardinensis, Magnolia Pulitzovilla, that are from cloud forest, right?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. I mean, we need resources. And for instance, Medellin Botanical Garden, they don't, you can go there for free. You don't have to pay. Oh. So those could be nice resources to take care of the species, but people don't pay for that, right? So
you have to find other ways to find those resources.
Yes.
Which is more work. Yeah.
Yes. It's difficult. It is difficult.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's see. Another one of the great questions is, so does the government of Colombia have any programs or funding set up to protect endangered magnolia species in the country?
That's a tough question.
Okay. How about answering it the best way that you can, or the most simple way?
Well, we have the Humboldt Institution. Is a national institution. Look at the logo if you want to look for it. And they are this is the institution, Instituto Humboldt Colombia, and they are by law, I mean by the government, their role is look for resources and research, and they are doing nice things. For instance, trying to perform models of distribution of the species, but they need the help of the experts, and the experts never have time, so it is difficult to work on that. But this is kind of a help that government offers to work, but no, not really. I mean, the government do not offer money, or if offers, it is difficult. For instance, in these days, we have this call, which is, the name is Colombia Biodiversa, and they offer 3 million pesos per student
Oh,
for the whole country.
wow.
And it is few. I mean, there are many students, many proposals,
And many
and
species.
many species,
Yeah.
animals, and maybe animals are more charismatic. So,
Mhm.
and they say, no, magnolias are very famous, and they do have had money, no more for magnolias. that kind of problems as well.
Well, it sounds like partnerships are a really great way to start bringing in resources to get this great work. And I'm really glad that you mentioned Botanic Gardens Conservation International and the Magnolia Society. So that's really, really quite important. So I think we have time for one more question. So we here at the San Francisco Botanical Garden have we specialize in cloud forest plants. So I know I'm very excited, and I'm sure many of our viewers here today who are familiar with our collection are very excited to know that many of the Magnolia species in Colombia are from cloud forests. As a kind of fun note, what is the highest elevation that any magnolia occurs in Colombia? That you know of. Oh, and I think you're on mute still. Oh, Marcela, I think your sound is off.
Sorry, I didn't realize that.
Okay.
Maybe 2007, 2,800,000. I
Wow,
mean,
that's high up.
it is high, almost
Okay.
3,000. Yeah, yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes.
That's
But
exciting.
yeah, but we have Bogota. Bogota is located at 2,600 meters above the sea level, and
Yeah.
they have some trees, but I I think that we need advice to establish the trees in the collections to guarantee conservation, because we have trees in, for instance, Magnolia sylvioi in Medellin Botanical Garden, and they look great, they're pretty beautiful, but no seeds. And we haven't have performed pollination or more trees or something. No, 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 we don't have time or people or
Oh, yeah.
whatever, right?
Time and resources, those are important things. But yeah. Oh, well, I will say on behalf of the San Francisco Botanic Garden, I would love for us to find a way to partner with you and all of the other great colleagues you work with, so we can help support your work and share the great messages that you have to share and that great resource, that great research. So,
Well, it has been very nice to get these big projects with Franklinia, because
mhm.
they are so useful to look more for the trees in the field. I mean, we do have, when I was trying to figure it out, why we don't have more trees in botanic gardens or in the cities, it is because, well, maybe money is quite important. So if you are an architect or horticulturalist, or you want to work on urban forest, for sure you are not going to choose magnolias. Why? Because they are so expensive, very expensive, because you can't find them. So people try to do anything to get a tree, so they are going to sell you for a lot of money, which is ridiculous. And we do have several beautiful species, easy to grow, easy to establish, easy to find. So it is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, so magnolias, you can find magnolias more easily in private collections,
That makes
right?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Marcela, I want to thank you so much, and I think we will
Ryan,
conclude. Yes,
sorry, I just have seen something about
sure, please.
mycorrhiza. about
Oh,
mycorrhiza. I love that topic because magnolias have so far just endomycorrhiza, not ectomycorrhiza, just endo. And I have seen two kinds of mycorrhiza. I mean, vesicular. I mean, the common mycorrhiza with BAM mycorrhiza, but also endophyte, dark septile endophytes. I'm going to, may I chat, right?
sure, sure.
I think so, dark endophytes. So I love that topic because I think that we need to research about this. I mean, to know what happens there, why they are there, because they are not well known. It is a difficult research, but in Magnolia Ardinensis, for instance, the trees are established in very acid soils. So they need mycorrhiza, otherwise they would
No nutrients.
die.
Yeah.
I mean, they starve there if they don't have mycorrhiza. So it is a very interesting topic, and that is why I want to work on that.
I love
So
it.
thank you, thank you.
I love the passion, and I'm sure all of our visitors do too. But also, everybody, if you have extra questions, please send them to us at the garden, and we can always forward those along to Marcela as well. So, the learning does not have to stop here by any means. So, well, with that, Marcela, thank you again. I had an absolute wonderful time listening to you. I hope we can find more ways to collaborate in the future.
Thank you so much, Ryan,
Okay.
for the invitation. Thank you.
Pleasure. Well, everyone, thank you for attending, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Bye, Marcela.
Bye bye.